From Detroit to the nations, you are listening to the world's #1 Christian station, Worship Center Radio, the platform of champions.
Welcome to Glamour Shop Talk with your host, Vicki Johnson.
Good afternoon, Worship Center Radio listeners. We are joining you once again to give you an informative, anointed broadcast. Today, I am joined with an awesome woman of God and anointed in what she does, Miss Joyce Hudson. She is joining us on the phone, and she will be informing us of a disease that is affecting our culture. So before we get started, I just want to thank Worship Center Radio for having this opportunity to send forth the information that we're giving, and we know that information is power. But before we get started and I introduce our guests, I just want to have a word of prayer and thanksgiving. So, Father God, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for this is the day that you have made, and we're rejoicing because we have an opportunity here on Glamour Shop Talk to glorify you and to be a blessing to others. Now, Father, anoint Miss Hudson, anoint me, and let the listeners be enlightened by what they hear this day. So, Father, we thank you once again. We thank you for Worship Center Radio. We thank you for Glamour Shop Talk. Today, can you say hi to us, Joyce? Hi, Joyce.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. I just want to let the listening audience know a little bit about you. First of all, that, like I said, you are an anointed woman of God, and you are anointed to do what you do, and that is you are one of the head dietitians at Veterans Hospital here in the city of Detroit. But also, you are very passionate about destroying and getting rid of sugar diabetes in our culture. Am I correct, Joyce?
Yes, absolutely. I am a certified diabetic educator, and diabetes has been one concentration that I truly, truly have a passion for.
I am so happy to hear that. We were talking a little bit earlier, and you were sharing with me, number one, the different cultures and individuals that diabetes affects. Can you share that with our listening audience again?
Absolutely. It appears that diabetes is higher in African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians. And the way that it's rated, you have the Hispanic population who has the highest population that has diabetes, then African Americans, and then Asians, and then the Caucasians. So we are one of the targeted cultures that suffers with the disease of diabetes.
And another thing I would like you to address too, there are two types of diabetes. Can you share that information with us today?
Absolutely. You have what we call diabetes type 1. And type 1 is an autoimmune disease where at birth or at a very young age, your body's antibody cannot identify the pancreas as something that the body needs. So our natural antibodies go ahead and they start to attack and tear down the pancreas. The pancreas is the main source of insulin. And there's no way, and I'll talk a little bit about glucose. There's no way the glucose can get out of the bloodstream if it does not have insulin. So with type 1, it's usually in children.
Okay.
I had a friend who had a child that was at 6 months. He was about the youngest at U of M. He had type 1.
Wow.
And those type of individuals present with very, very high blood sugars, and they have to have insulin through injection.
Wow.
Or now they have the pump to provide them with the proper metabolism of the glucose that they consume.
Now, let me ask you a question. Does the medical society have any idea why certain individuals would be born with type 1? Is there some type of genetic studies that will give them a heads up of why this individual over that individual would be afflicted with type 1?
There's a lot of theories out there. Some of them have something to do with milk or protein, but there's a lot of theories, but no one can actually pinpoint why the body's antibiotics, just the autoimmune just destroys the pancreas. It's nothing that you can pinpoint.
Okay,
actually.
so it's nothing that the mother did or could have done.
No.
Because we want to make that clear, that to our listening audience, that this is something that humans are not aware of why it's like it is, but that is happening in certain individuals, but it can be managed. Is that the good thing?
Absolutely, it can. And the birth mother has nothing to do with the autoimmune system that causes the antibiotics of the baby to attack the pancreas. And it is definitely managed. I have several friends that are type 2 that are just as healthy and vibrant and intelligent as you want anyone to be.
Wow. That's awesome. So a type 1 diabetic can pretty much have a very normal lifestyle. Is that right?
Absolutely, especially with the invention of the pump, the insulin pump, where they can program it to release, like the body normally releases insulin throughout the bloodstream when it's needed. The pump does the same thing. Now, when you're looking at type 2 is a situation where it's what we call adult onset diabetes, and usually you see a high rise in your blood sugars around age 30, some older, some younger, but it's around in that age range where it's DNA, or it's, as I would tell my patients, it's the genes that your parents gave you predominantly, where your pancreas does release some insulin.
Okay.
And however, it doesn't release a lot sufficiently to take care of the glucose that when you consume to get it into the cells. So type 2 may or may not require medication. For example, sometimes the doctor initially will recommend diet and exercise, and we'll talk a little bit about exercise, but more so, about diet, but more so the muscles are the biggest users of insulin and glucose.
Okay.
And by exercising, your muscles is just like with a car with the fuel, and the glucose is like gasoline to the muscles. The more you use it, the more that glucose will be used and come down in your bloodstream. And that's why exercise is so important.
Gotcha.
Sometimes they may put you on pills, and we call it the oral hypoglycemic medication, where those pills just kind of squeeze and prompts that pancreas to release more insulin. And then sometimes it has to be with the needle and to inject pure insulin into the bloodstream to get the glucose out. So that's the difference. One, you're born with it, or it's an autoimmune, and the other is at some point in time, whether it's DNA or whatever the cause may be, the insulin in the pancreas just starts to say, I'm tired, I have no more, and just gives up.
Wow. That's something. That's amazing how the human body will just function like that. I mean, don't you think that's amazing? It'll just say, okay, that's enough. I'm out of here.
Absolutely. Well, you know the body is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
And when God created Adam and Eve, actually he set them in a garden,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the first things he gave them food. He says, you know, every tree that bears fruit and the grain and so forth was
Mm-hmm.
there because God knew when he created our bodies how it functioned, and food is one of the main things that sustains our body.
Okay.
And when you talk about diabetes, pretty much it's all about the amount and the type of carbohydrates that you consume
Can you
throughout.
touch on that? Because the information that I was reading that you so wonderfully put together and sent to me, I really got a clearer understanding about what diabetes was. Um, and I would like for you to really expound on the food because even for myself, I thought, well, if you're diabetic, you really have to be careful about your desserts, your sugary drinks. But in reading the information that you sent me, that's not the only issue here. Am I correct or?
Absolutely. I would say maybe about 20, 30 years ago, the way we controlled diabetes, we put everybody on what we would call either a 1,800 calorie 88 diet or a 2,000 calorie 88 diet, and there's no more 88 diet. The way that we manage diabetes today with diet is counting the carbohydrate servings that your body can control your glucose levels.
Okay.
So, and what carbohydrates are foods, for instance, that have what we call glucose. It's converted into glucose. And when we talk about carbohydrate foods, we're talking about breads, crackers, cereal, pastas, rice, starchy vegetables like your potatoes, corn, peas, beans, milk, fruit, sweets, all contain what we call carbohydrates.
Oh.
And what carbohydrates do, the body breaks it down into what we call glucose.
Mm.
Glucose is needed to fuel every single organ in your body and should never be excluded from your diet,
Okay.
but monitored.
Ah, okay.
And what happens is, say for instance, you had a slice of bread.
Mm-hmm.
A slice of bread is considered a carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
A slice of bread, when it goes into your body, and the way that God has designed the body, food is chemical.
Okay.
It's broken down into what we would call 15 grams of glucose. Glucose travels into the bloodstream just like a car. When you fuel a car with gasoline, a car can't go if it doesn't have the gasoline. The body cannot go unless it has glucose.
Oh, wow.
And then at certain points in time, your glucose level should be between 80 and 120 in the bloodstream.
Okay.
When you consume some bread or high carbohydrate foods, it may go up to maybe 200. Immediately, the way the body has been designed, soon as it gets as high as 130, 140, 150, the body releases insulin.
Oh.
Insulin goes into the bloodstream,
Uh-huh.
and it takes that glucose, and it's the only way it can enter into the cell and cause the cell to function the way it should go. When you're diabetic, something happens where your pancreas, you may have a high glucose level of 150, 160. It's trying to release that insulin, but it can't release enough, so some of it goes into cell, some of it stays in the bloodstream, and when glucose is high in the bloodstream, that's when it does the damage to your cell.
Wow. Okay. Can we touch on how does an individual who might have gone to the doctor and gotten a clear bill of health, but what are some of the symptoms of a person who might have diabetes and not know that they have diabetes? Like, for instance, does diabetes attack you suddenly, gradually? What are the things that we can do to combat diabetes, like you said, some of it can be expected through hereditary. Okay, you know,
Right.
if your parents had it, or I guess a close, like a grandmother, that's a
Right.
possibility that you should be looking for it, or a possibility that you might have it. But what are some of the signs, the symptoms that individuals need to look for, or watch out for, and how do they combat it and make sure that they're on top of it?
Well, diabetes is what we call an insidious disease. And what I mean by insidious, by the time you recognize it, it's already done some damage. It has been reported that within 5 years, when people present with diabetes, they've had it for 5 years. One of the signs that really, really can tip you off is what we call polydipsia. And that's a condition where you always thirsty. I mean, you just can't get enough water.
Mm-hmm.
And then as much water as you drink, you have what we call polyuria. You're urinating. So you're drinking water and you're urinating, you're drinking water and you're urinating.
Mm-hmm.
Severe weight loss is sometimes when you start to lose a lot of weight.
Okay.
That could give you a sign. And then weakness. It also attacks the eyes. You may have blurred vision, or your vision may be affected.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the signs, these are the overt signs that, you know, something is really going on. But it doesn't come, those signs do not come immediately.
Okay.
The body tries to compensate for a high sugar, and a lot of people refer to glucose as sugar, and they're interchangeable. Mm-hmm. And the scientific word is glucose. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they call it sugar is because it's like Mrs. Buttersworth's syrup. It's very, very syrupy and sweet. So it got the nickname of sugar. So I refer to glucose as sugar.
Uh-huh.
So when your blood sugars are very, very high and you don't know that you are diabetic, the body tries to compensate. The kidneys, which is the body's filtering system, it tries to throw off that excess glucose or sugar into the urine. So many, many years ago, people would urinate, they'd take these sticks, and they would monitor how much sugar is in the urine, and then they would know, oh, I'm a diabetic. But, of course, now we have what we call the glucometers. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the ways you know that you possibly have high blood sugar, the weakness, the excessive thirst, the excessive urination. Maybe your vision has really started to go, and you go in, you do a blood test, and you go in as a fasting, and the doctor will see, because a fasting over 120 is what we call prediabetes.
Okay. So, say for instance, what would you tell our listening audience how to be aware of the symptoms, how to work with their doctor if they have diabetes? What is some of your experiences with individuals in terms of once they, and this is a long question, once they find out they have diabetes, how should they emotionally and mentally wrap their heads around it? Because sometimes it can be a very scary thing. Their lifestyle, they think their lifestyle has to change. They think their lifespan is going to be shortened. They think they're going to have to be on a dialysis machine. So can you address that, the last 5 minutes that we have here, so that our listening audience can kind of know that this is not a death threat, not a death sentence?
Absolutely. First of all, like I tell all of my patients, don't panic.
Okay.
Because emotionally, when you panic, that will cause your glucose levels to go up.
Okay.
I also want you to know that diabetes at this point in time is as common as a common cold. My mom was a diabetic. My husband is a diabetic. My sister is a diabetic.
Wow.
My cousins are diabetic. I have seen children that are diabetic. It's relaxed.
Yes.
It's controllable.
Mm-hmm.
Lifespan can be as long as God designed for you to
Yes.
have your lifespan. It has nothing to do with being a diabetic.
Okay.
But the thing is, the first thing we try to do is to advise you on how to eat and what to eat. First of all, everything in moderation, not restricting anything in your
Okay.
diet.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, is learning how to count your carbohydrates, because it is the carbohydrates that causes the blood glucose levels to rise. If you're already having a problem with your pancreas not secreting sufficient amount of insulin to take out the excess glucose in your body, the most sensible thing is try to control the amount of carbs that you take in.
Okay.
And what I mean by carbohydrates, for instance, we usually have people, because a lot of people get caught up on candy. Oh, I can't have candy. I can't have ice cream. I can't have cookies anymore now that I'm a diabetic. You have to understand that 1 teaspoon of sugar contains what we call 5 grams of carbohydrate. Sugar is just another form of carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe talking to a dietitian and trying to understand that every serving that you take in that contains a carb, for instance, a slice of bread, a half a cup of beans, or rice, is going to give you a certain amount of carbs.
Okay.
You can also look at the package on the nutritive labels.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the total carbs, when you look at the ingredients, ignore sugar.
Okay.
Concentrate on the total grams of carbohydrate.
Okay.
A
Wonderful.
moderate amount should be about 60 grams per meal.
Wonderful.
If you see a particular product's going to give you 45 grams of carbohydrate, know that that is extremely high per serving.
Okay.
Because try to keep it at 60 grams per meal.
Joyce, is there any way that you can be reached, our listening audience? Do you have a website, or do you have, I know, like I said, you are the dietitian for Veterans Hospital. And is there any way maybe if an organization would like you to come and speak and inform them for a group of people? Is there any way that they can contact you?
Yes, you can contact me here at my office. And my number is 313-576-4568, and that's directly to my office.
And can you give us that again?
313-576-4568.
I think that you have been such a blessing. We're going to kind of wrap it up because we're going to have you back again at I think the end of this month or next month, because it's such a vast and important subject that we only chipped away at it. And I want you to get into more details of the actual food portions that we should have, the exercise. What are some of the exercising that you recommend? And I want you to really give our listening audience a confirmation that with all things, God is possible, and He's given us all wisdom in order to handle this and to be able to be healed. Have you ever heard of anyone healed of diabetes?
Not per se healed, where the pancreas was restored, but certainly controlled and taken off of the medication with the correct monitoring of the diet and exercise. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we look forward, Joyce, talking to you later. And I thank you so much. Joyce, you are so knowledgeable and you are a gift to the nations. So I'm going to let you go, and you be blessed today.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure to talk with you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, listening audience. This is Vicki Johnson from Glamour Shop Talk. We would just like to invite you to join us on Mondays at 1 o'clock, Glamour Shop Talk, Worship Center Radio. And if you would like to come in and make an appointment to get some of our awesome natural hair services, weave services, shampoo, blowing curls, pressing curls. We have a wide variety of services for the hair, nails, and also waxing services. You can reach us at 248-423-7776. 248-423-7776. We're located in Lathrop Village at 28801 Southfield Road, Lathrop Village, Michigan, Suite 200. Also in that building, we have some wonderful other businesses called All Locked Up in our top suite, which she does all natural hair services. Her name is Erica. And then we have Cut Masters Barber Shop, which Mr. Claude Mitchell is the owner and operator. And we invite you all to come and to enjoy the awesome relaxation of each and every business that's represented there. We want to wish our veterans a happy Veterans Day Wednesday. We appreciate you. We thank you for your services, that you have protected us and kept us safe. So once again, we thank you, Worship Center Radio, for giving us this opportunity to have Glamour Shop Talk, where we talk and expound on different lifestyle issues and also promote those businesses that are within our community that we think is an asset to you. So we love you. We'll see you once again 1 o'clock on Mondays, Worship Center Radio. This is Glamour Shop Talk with your host, Vicki Johnson.
Thank you for listening to Glamour Shop Talk. Join us again every 3 p.m. GlamourSalons.com.